Okay, here we are again. So it's actually Saturday right now. And when I last worked at it was Thursday. It's a quick little, outline of why that happened. So Friday I got home from work. I was tired. Sat down, which is usually one of my rules that I will not come home from work and sit down on the couch. So you can probably tell I broke that rule. That was a big failure. So understand, number one, that happens all the time. Not all the time, sorry. It will continue to happen over and over because y'all should own it. Boss voice and bitch voice, right? Bitch voice handled it. It came in loud and proud. I was a little tired. It saw the weakness and exploited it. So that was that. I sat on the couch, fell asleep, had to go get the kids from the sitter. And by the time I woke up, there's only 30 minutes left. So that was it. Which, it doesn't ruin my day. But when my kids are here, if there's not a clean window of time to do a workout, I don't do it because I have my priorities. I have my non-negotiables or my bright lines, I guess if you want to call it that. When there's a direct conflict of two or more things, I know what comes first. My children come first. So if there's not time to work out and they're involved, they are the priority. The end. So having said that, I'm now finding myself late morning on Saturday doing a workout. So I don't know how this is going to go as far as fitting everything in, but I'm going to try to do as much as I can, probably for about an hour here, keep it moving, and then I got to do more either tomorrow. Well, I will do more tomorrow no matter what. It's just whether I'm going to do it now and then later tonight or early Sunday and late Sunday, or just two separate sessions. I don't know yet, but right now I'm doing calves because I got to catch everything up. It's going to be a bit of a tornado here. Having said that, so I really originally, it would be a lot easier just to do the workout, to be honest, and not talk about what I want to talk about today, because I got asked a very very good question first off, but a very emotional question in reality. A client of mine had sent me a message and just asked me, he said, well, he asked, how did you know when it was time to tell your kids you were getting a divorce? And then how did you tell them? And for me personally, that was a bit of a surreal moment when it happened. But when I think back on it, even right now, I can feel myself emotionally getting connected to that moment. Because it was a sad moment, to be honest. It was not, there was nothing proud about it. There was nothing that felt good about it. There was no relief. Like some things that you do along this journey of a divorced man as you're going through some of the conversations you have with your ex-wife or people in your life or whatever, clarity, I don't know, maybe the therapist, maybe a friend, a coach, I don't know what it is. But when you have some of those conversations, they can feel like you just unloaded a huge amount of stress. And you feel like you can actually move around the world better. But for me, when we told the kids and when it was time to tell the kids, there was no weight released. If I'm going to be totally honest, I didn't know what to expect going into telling them. And had I known this, maybe I would been able to be more prepared. But for me, it felt like it put more weight on me. I felt like Jesus, I feel like I doubled or even tripled the weight of what I was carrying. Because in one hand, I was worried about my own emotions. well, I guess I should say I only had to worry about my own emotions and kind of navigating the space with my, at the time, separated from wife, but not ex-wife quite yet. But like those were the only really emotions I needed to pay attention to, mine mainly. Once the kids found out, it was just, honestly, I even went on the back burner, which is not a good thing. I want to make sure that's clear right now. You as an individual should never be on the back burner because you can't be of any service to anyone, your children, your ex-wife, your family, anyone. If you aren't uplifting yourself first. Because all they're going to see is this hollow shell of a human that's clearly putting on a fake face. Little kids know, when you're not yourself, when you're not your genuine self. They understand what liars look like. They understand, like, they can feel that energy at a very young age. And they know you, like you are the representative of yourself within a certain space to them every day of their life. Like, so once a wrench gets thrown in and you're starting to act differently, they sense it because they only have a certain amount of perspective. So it's actually more magnified to them. But going back to the question of when did I know it was time and how did I do it? Well, it's going to take a little bit of backstory here to lead up to how I knew it. That's what will make it make sense. So I'll try to keep it concise without getting too off track. But so when we told our kids, we had all three of them. Had our little girl, our little boy, and then our slightly older boy. They're very young. The little girl was 1.5 at the time, 2, right in that range. I mean, she has no recollection. That's honestly, that's a whole nother point to make here. Maybe a different day, but there's good and bad to that too. There really is, because she doesn't even know a life of a house of her mother and father even being together. And that's how I was. I don't even remember them ever being together. So there's a weird perspective here. Again, that's a whole nother subject technically, but I do think about that a lot even to this day, because sometimes they don't know what a good relationship between a mother and a father of the one child even looks like. So they might have a skewed perspective on whether or not they need to stay together with their future spouse. But anyway, so we had all three kids. Like I said, one was 1.5 or 2. The middle was about 5, 4.5, 5. Now the older one was, 7.5 or 8. There's right around a 3-year age gap, depending on what month it is. Depending on what month it is in the year. So they were young. The oldest, though, he's going to have memories. He's going to have memories of us together. He's already, he's just about 13 now. So, he is going to have memories. He's already said things. Even our youngest son, who's the middle child, has brought up things like, hey, you remember at our old house? Hey, do you remember in our big yard at our old house where the baseball, because I had baseball field and I had the full gym. I had everything there. So he talks a lot about that. And that's hard, but I listen to it because I want to make sure it's only good memories from then. But so, gosh, it's hard to not get derailed here because it brings up so many emotions. This is such a spider web of emotions that gets to this one subject, but sticking with it. So that was the age of the kids. The big thing was, though, again, timeline is very, very important in these situations, because when people say, oh, well, I told my kids because of this, and this is how I told them, understand that not every circumstance is the same. Which, again, going back to the beginning, is why these videos are so important, because it's just a perspective. There is no, hey, just do this, because you're an individual, just like I'm an individual, just like everybody else, just like all the clients that I have are individuals. It's all meant to be handled in a certain way with that individual. So for me, it was a building process because I had found out some years back before our third child was born. So this is, again, timeline is very important because I have issues within this whole scenario that built up to my current reality as well. This isn't like I don't get to stand here at all and just point my finger at my ex and say, she did this, she did that, and then just tell you my side of the story, leaving out all the garbage that I brought to the plate too. Like I have to be super, super cognizant and super, super aware because it's the only thing that allows me to grow in my current space. But so when our third child wasn't even created yet. It wasn't even in my in my wife's womb yet. None of that. She wasn't even a thing. It was just me, my wife, and my two boys. I had found out that in a what sounds like may have been more than a moment of weakness, but I wasn't there, so I can't say. But there's at least one moment of weakness that my ex-wife at the time found herself in a work trip away from home in a different state. That is a standard story. People go on their work conventions and they sometimes fall prey to the situation of, oh, well, I'm not in my reality anymore. And they just fall victim to it. It is what it is. That is not how I handled it before. Just so we're clear, I was very emotional, very upset, very everything, angry, sad. Honestly, as weird as this is about to sound, I was a little relieved in moments because there was thoughts in my head that were happening leading up to that moment that made sense. But the relief was very small. Let's just be real. Having said that, I found that out. And, we went through the arguments. We went through she can get the hell out of the house, stay at her family's. And she did that. She respected that. And, from there, we did the typical thing. We argued. And when I say argued, this wasn't like screaming matches and, everyone in the neighborhood heard our business. Like, it wasn't like that at all. We weren't that couple. We weren't the couple that ever screamed and fought or anything for that matter. We were actually prided ourselves on, we don't get in arguments. The fool's side of that now, which you might be aware of this, but I see now clear as day is, we were holding up a trophy we created ourselves. There was no trophy to be held up. It was in a tournament of 0. We didn't have any competitors because there was nothing to be won. We were toting we don't get in arguments is because we were ignoring our situation. We were ignoring our problems. That's why we didn't get in arguments, which led me to right here, a divorced man. So let me just be clear right now. If you don't get in arguments, you're probably not doing it right. Now, another quick interjection. You need to define an argument because some people say an argument is a screaming match and you're yelling and throwing things. Like, that's not an argument. An argument's pretty much just a disagreement. And let's go ahead and just take the word argument out of it. We get in disagreements. Like, let's have that and we talk about it. We did not. So we did the typical thing after I found out that she had, a moment of weakness. And that time I was just aware of the one. So we ignored, I ignored it technically, and she kind of pseudo ignored it because I didn't bring it up. But when I would bring it up, if I did, was when something else triggered me. And then I would pull it out of my back pocket and throw it at her. You know what I mean? Like, I would take that situation and put it in her face. And at the time, I wasn't holding on to it, or I didn't think I was holding on to it in a sense of a weapon, even though I was. I didn't think that's what I was doing. And you could see the confusion on her face. Now I look back of, why are you bringing this up? We haven't even talked about it for a while. But at the same time, I would kind of almost be in that exact same thought process, but on the opposite side. Why wouldn't I bring this up? Because we haven't talked about it, because you won't bring it up. So neither one of us are bringing it up. There's just this mess. So we went on like that for a little while. Obviously, you're probably telling yourself, well, you had 2 kids. How did you have a third? Well, it's because we ignored our situation. And, getting back in the rut. Like people say, just put your head down and get back to work. That's how you do it. Bullshit. It's not how you do it. So that's what I did. I had all the positive affirmations in my truck. I wrote them all down. I got a full notebook of my 5 positive affirmations every single morning. I'd repeat out loud. And most of them were, I love my wife. She's my queen. I will not disrespect her. This is my future. I'm choosing for this to be my future. But I didn't ever handle this situation. You see what I mean? Like I'm placing these things on top of this crap without cleaning it up first. So the foundation's sitting on this nasty, just loose, shitty dirt. So it's all just piling and getting more and more rickety as I piled it up. So from there, we had our third child, our little girl. And, that was amazing. I mean, that was a huge, huge moment in my life of, this is incredible. She was actually only the second girl in our entire family, like my side of the family. So, I mean, there's tons and tons of boys. So it was huge. And things were going really good. But the problem was eventually that dust and that dirt and that just shit that we hadn't cleaned up would show its ugly face. So flash forward over time, any argument had the chance or had the potential to blister into that space. Well, she had thoughts of me being, not faithful. But I think that was her projecting her own issues onto me. I really do. Now, having said that, I'm not saying that I may not have been portraying that outwardly. I don't truly know. I wasn't doing anything. I know that 100% for her. I can take that to my deathbed. I wasn't doing anything behind her back. I'm not that guy. It's something that I tie myself to very clearly. But having said that, I don't know the energy I was putting out, because I might have been putting out the energy that you just don't do it for me anymore. And that's not good. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I'm done. That's the ugly face right there. But so that might have been the energy I was putting out. But let's flash forward, because again, it's starting to derail because it's getting into subjects on their own. But that is some of the stuff that led us to understand, because we were getting in those arguments. We were starting to have those fights a little more often. And what started to happen was that oh man, it just became more apparent that we aren't working. Because now, with the situation of her past, of what was bad decisions in a moment of weakness, it just sat there and lingered in my head. But since that had been in hers and there's been no resolution now to linger in her head, she was starting to, put that on me as if I'm doing the same or all this other stuff. And whatever. So we're just starting to get more and more arguments. Well, there was one final accusation from her to me of her insinuating I'm doing something in the background with somebody else. And that was it. I'd spent years, trying to get through this on my own, well, our own. And that was wrong, first off. But it signaled to me that this shit's done. The amount of time and effort I'm putting into what is this situation is not paying off, and she's not seeing it, and it's not getting better. Again, I kept saying she, as if I'm pointing the finger, which is wrong. Like, that's just wrong. I was wrong in that moment. That's not me being right. Let's get that super, super clear, because it's not. I was not right. I was just there to point a finger, and that didn't help. But the one thing I'll give myself credit for in that moment was I just said out loud, and almost fit of rage, so I don't know what's going on with us, but I'm tired of this shit, and we aren't working anymore. We need to go see a therapist. And she agreed. So again, that'll be a whole nother story, 100% the therapist side. I have so much to say about that. It's insane. Let me just say that obviously I'm sure you know this already, because as I'm making these videos, it is not a good story to tell, and it does not have a happy ending. Whatever. But we went to the therapist. Things weren't working at the therapist. What he was helping us, guiding us through, it just wasn't working. I saw the things that he would suggest we should work on, and the things that I felt we should work on, and the things that she felt we should work on. Then we would go home, and just it wouldn't happen. She would revert back to her instincts, and I'm sure I did it too. If you asked her, I'm sure I did it too. So we weren't committed enough to do the things we needed to do. And that specifically, now that happened a bunch of times. And remember, this is time built up that led to this moment. But those specific things, once we were butting heads, even after having external intervention like a therapist, a marriage therapist specifically, trying to point these things out, and we just weren't working on them like actively, I knew right then we had one final argument in the house. First argument we actually ever had in the house that was like approaching an actual like argument. I remember very clearly that we were in such disagreement, and I had brought up the whole infidelity thing, and she had tried to tell me that I'm doing the same thing, and she was just wrong. Having said that, I was wrong for like throwing it in her face again, because we could never get over something if I wasn't going to get over it myself. But having said that, she was throwing it back at me and trying to create a scenario that just didn't exist. So it was bad. It was toxic at that point. And I remember she was saying something from the top of the stairwell down to me at the bottom. And it was very hurtful. And it's not fair to me to say what she said, because that doesn't matter. That's our moment. We were both saying hurtful things. Let's be clear. But I turned around and started walking up the stairs. And this is the exact moment that I was like, we're done. It's over with. I came up the stairs, and by the time I got halfway up the stairs, I turned, because our staircase went up in the center and split. I turned towards her, and she started backing up quickly and kind of cowered into a corner. And I saw that she had flipped who I am in her brain. Now, this may have already happened, but I could see it on her. Now, whether or not she actually felt that way, or if she was using it as a tool against me, because I have a lot of history with my childhood of how arguments would be handled towards me physically as a kid. So I don't know if there was some manipulation happening there to like make me triggered to do, like, I don't even know. That's a whole nother story. But when I saw her cower in a way that I thought, oh, I didn't earn this. This is wrong. It just came over me so clearly. Like, I mean, it washed over me. And all the fog from my eyes of what the fuck's going on? Am I getting a divorce? Does this person love me? Do I love her? I want my family. I want to keep my family. Do I want to keep all this stuff? Which, if you're the shit doesn't matter. The stuff doesn't matter. You can get it all back, or you don't have to get it back, because most of it's probably garbage anyways. But anyways, do I want to keep all the shit? And it all just went away. The fog cleared, and it's clear as day. And I remember stopping, and I looked at her and I said, I'm going to go tell the kids we're getting divorced. It's that time. And she came out of her corner, stood straight up. So that told me right there, okay, you weren't actually afraid. That was a tactic. And you knew in that moment it didn't work, and you agreed, or she agreed. She said, okay, let's go tell them. And I don't know if she, because again, I can't speak for her, because in all fairness, there's a lot of emotions flying. I don't know if she actually felt that way in that moment. Like, yes, we need to tell the kids, but maybe she did. Maybe she realized something. Maybe that same clarity came over her in that moment. I can't speak for her. But I also wonder at times if she wasn't calling my bluff. Like, if it wasn't more of like a mental tactic. Like, he would never. Like, fine, I'll just say that. I don't know. It's not for me to know. It doesn't matter. But that was the moment I knew it was time to tell the kids, because my world was different. The world that I was trying to decide, was it worth keeping? Was it worth sticking with? Was it worth saving? Was it worth the sacrifice that I would have to give? Was it worth rolling the dice, because I knew the situation that she had put us in? You know what? Not fair. That's me pointing a finger. She didn't put us in. I knew the situation that me and her both had our problems with that put us in that scenario. It just happened to be that in her moment of weakness, moments, whatever, when I found out later, that's what created a scenario, and that's what my inefficiencies and my what I couldn't hold up in my end of the relationship apparently like facilitate that. I don't know, but ultimately That was it. When she flipped and I realized, oh, I'm not fighting. I'm in a battle for a relationship that exists over here, but I was expecting what ought to be. I was fighting for what should be and what I thought the world should be or my world should be and what she ought to be. I was not fighting from the perspective of what the world is. That is what the world was at that moment. And that was clarity. Oh, we're done. This isn't the person that I started with. I'm not the person that she started with, I'm sure, because the person you marry is not the person you divorce. Let's be very clear. So that was the clear moment of, oh, this isn't working and it's not going to work. Neither one of us are doing the things we're supposed to do. You see me totally different. And honestly, if I'm being real, that moment made me realize how different I saw her. So that was it. That was how I knew it was time to tell them. It was a split second decision on both of our parts, but her reaction to it pulled everything back. It blew all the smoke out of the way. It pulled the curtain completely back. Which, if I'm being honest, right now, specifically, right now, looking back, I need to take a moment and say thank you. Because without that moment, these videos may not be made. I may not be able to help some people. I may not even be divorced. Honestly, maybe I was divorced. Maybe I'm not here at all. I don't know. But that's how I knew to go tell them. So this is the part, though, where I say, had I known the weight that it would carry, had somebody been able to tell me the way I'm hoping to tell some of you or prepare you for, I would have thought it out a little better, though, because I'm telling you. So we went up the stairs and I said that. The clarity came through. I'm telling the kids we're getting divorced. She stood up. So, okay, let's tell them. We both about faced. Went down the top step. Like I said, the splits went right back up the other. Turned into their bedroom. Told them one spot right there. Man, it's going to be a little emotional, I'll be honest. We were in their room. They're both in their bed, each, not asleep yet. Like I said, I want to be very clear too. This is our very first, what was probably an audible argument. Not like yelling, but audible. I'm sure they heard tones that they've never heard before. We opened up their door, turned on their light, and I was adamant in that moment. The boys get up. We got something we need to tell you. And she stood there silent for the moment. And I looked at them and just said, we love you both very much. I want you to know that, and mommy and daddy are getting a divorce. And what that means is that we won't be living together anymore. Mommy and daddy are going to start to figure out how we can, find different houses and start that process. And we thought we should tell you first. And again, they're young, 4 to 5 and 7, like around 8. 4 or 5 years old and 8-ish. And the confusion on their face, 'cause they don't officially know what divorce is. I gave them that weak ass explanation. I didn't have time to think about it. She didn't have time to think about it. We were running off emotions. And we did it together, even though we just got done arguing. And, that's tough. Like this is tough. But my youngest son, like I said, he's around 4 at that time, probably closer to 5, but all he said was I want to still live with my brother. like I said, they stayed in the same room together since they were born. Hell, they still stay in the same room together even at my house, even at their age now. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the older brother probably doesn't want to have his own room, but it's just not the way things are at the moment. That's all they'd known, and that hit hard, man. I wasn't ready for it. Clearly, it struck me in a way. I mean, to this day, I can't even hardly talk about it without getting, emotional, which isn't a bad thing, but it's just the reality of it. And from there, it just straight went into reassurance to him and his older brother. No, that's not what's happening, guys. We are all still a family. It's just it's going to look a little different. You guys are still brothers. You're still going to live together. There will never be a day that you guys are apart. This isn't a situation of you're staying with mommy or daddy and that's it, and you're splitting up. That's not what's happening. So once we got him to understand that, things were better. One thing we did have on our side was the one was very young. But the little girl was a baby, so she didn't even know. The middle-aged son was, again, 4 to 5. So he didn't have a solid frame of reference of what was even happening. But we got him cleared up, got him to understand. And ended up not being a bad conversation. Again, though, if I'd have known the way it was going to feel and what they might do emotionally and how they might perceive it emotionally, I would have taken time to plan out what I was going to say. I would have done it at a way better time than right before they go to bed. Because you implant that into your kid's head and then expect them to fall asleep. And if they do fall asleep, you expect them to have a good night's sleep. Just could have been done so much better. Not that I did it worse, but it could have been done better. But that is the moment that triggered me to have the conversation with them about, we're getting a divorce and how I told them. And those were very bang situations. So that's what I told my client. He was very surprised. We actually sat down and talked about what could be a good plan for him and his soon-to-be ex-wife and how they might want to tackle that together. And it opened up some clarity because he has a little boy as well, just one. But he did say, he's like, I didn't think of that. I didn't think about that emotions, like that angle. It's like, yeah, it's weird. Like, there's things you can't possibly imagine unless you just talk to people. Talk to some people who've been through it. So anyways, that's the story. Specifically on how did I know it was time to tell him and how did I tell him? So on the workout front, now we got through that part of the story. So like I said in the beginning, I screwed up, didn't do Friday because I was a little bitch. And so now I'm doing everything on Saturday. Just did calves, doing quads right now. Man, guess before I'm on a rebuild phase of my quads. Holy shit. They're weak. Currently, they are weak. It is not impressive. So I can feel it too. Yeah, not not in a hurting kind of way, but damn, like a weak little bitch when it comes to quads, legs in general. So they know they've been worked more than they have been in the past. I'm gonna do one more set here, which will equate to 6, or no. 3 sets. 3 working sets, yeah. 3 and 3 and 4, okay. So I only have 2 more sets to do tomorrow or later in the evening, however I want to do that. I'm gonna do some rear delts. And we may have to be done for now, I don't know. See what time it is. That story took a little longer than I wanted to. I knew it hit me in a weird way, but I didn't know. There's a moment there that was a little worse than I thought it'd be. So yeah, do these quads, get into this. And this is all full body. So I got to get on a better routine now, because then I'm doing these videos. I'm finding myself doing this standing. It's dumb. It's bullshit. I need to get a clock. I got my watch, but I just need to get a countdown timer and set it for maximum 90 seconds. If I'm ready to go into that, if my breathing returns to normal, okay, cool. But maximum 90 seconds and get going again. So I can keep this cadence up and keep these videos a little more succinct. All right, let's go. Last set, best set. Oh. Damn ankle mobility. Son of a bitch. Holy shit. All right. Let's bullshit out of here. What am I doing now? I'll mark this shit up. Get this done. 3 sets, quads, on a Saturday. Okay. Now let's do, what am I going to do? There's rear and side delts, which would be a good one. Traps would be another good one. Damn, son of a bitch. Could do a superset there. Not one of those in a while. The only thing is that doing that incline lateral / rear delt fly, finding that mid-range, the goal is to keep my traps out of it. Which is a little harder in that area because, of course, I want to be active. Oh, no. I'm doing dumbbells. It's actually might work out pretty well. Let's just go for it. Everything's about learning, right? Let's do that. We're going to do 3 sets of each, I think. No, we need 4 sets each. All right. Let's start with, let's do the dumbbell flies first, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't matter. We'll start with 15s. Okay. Remember, 6 to 10-ish, 12 maybe is the range I'm shooting for. Okay. Oh man, ugly face starting to activate. Such a good telltale sign of what you can and can't do. Let's start with 60s. Give me a good 10-pound jump each time. Plus a little bit of a warm up on this first set. straight into it. Because I'm doing the superset side of this. Okay, let's get that. Lean forward to touch. Damn. Okay. I did not check. See if you can even see what the hell I was doing on the rear delt flies. Oh, you kind of could. Let's move you a little better though. Let's get you moved over here. Maybe that'll help. See the garage for what it is. Parking space. Lawnmower needs to go to the shed because it's winter. And workout space. Okay. There's one set of each. Let my breathing come back down normal. So remember again, 90 seconds is the average. You just want your heart rate and your breathing to return normal. Boy, I can feel that. Slightly lower than the top side of straps. That shoulder movement, holy crap, feels good. Like really good. Usually a lot of times I don't do supersets at this time. Just because I like to make sure the muscle gets all of its focus. Damn, this feels good. It's been a minute. Like I said before, knowing who you are is a big part of this. And one thing I'll say about myself is I will overtrain if left to my own, devices. I'm definitely the guy that will always tell himself, well, you can do more. You're not doing enough. So I got to be cognizant of that. Oh, damn. Oh. Okay. Right up into the traps. Bump those up to 70s. Breathe it out for a quick second. Get my shit together. Get composed. Roll into a little bit of a forward lean. Just a touch. Damn, ugly ass face. So goddamn ugly. 2 sets. Okay. Get back into it here. One thing that's funny is that it's November. I know the fucking date is today. It's November 23rd, or not 23rd. What the hell am I saying? 15th or some shit? I don't know. Anyways, weekend before Thanksgiving. There. It's cold. Woke up this morning. It's in the high teens. This garage is like a cooler as the sun has come out in this late morning, but is now creeping into right around noon. Sun's coming out. It's getting warmer outside, but the problem is this damn garage. It's not perfectly insulated by any means. There's no ductwork. It's not heated, and you can see the light gaps by the doors. Side note, windstorm came through and blew that open. Insurance was a bitch, so I never replaced it. But it's not insulated great, but it holds on to enough. So in the winter, it's fucking extra cold in here if it gets warm outside. So there's times I'll open the damn garage door because it's warmer outside, even though it's in the teens or in the low 20s, because it'll be single digits in here easily. Probably when the real winter hits, you'll probably see this door open with snow on the ground. But as it does that, it's funny because I'll start getting a little bit of pump going and getting the blood flowing.